Okay, let's talk about something that can either make a team thrive or completely fall apart: communication. We're going to dive into why our messages get so twisted and lost in translation, and more importantly, what we can actually do about it. How to turn those frustrating breakdowns into some genuine breakthroughs.
I mean, you've been there, right? We all have. You send off an email that seems totally straightforward, but then you find out it caused a huge misunderstanding, or worse, even offended someone. It's such a common feeling, and it's the perfect snapshot of just how easily communication can go off the rails. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the real price we pay for miscommunication. Then, we'll break down how communication is supposed to work. After that, we'll uncover the 5 big barriers that usually stop it in its tracks. And finally, we'll give you a practical toolkit and show you how to start using it.
All right, first things first, let's talk about the high cost of miscommunication. And believe me, this goes way beyond just a few awkward moments. Poor communication can have some really serious consequences for any team.
And when you see it laid out like this, it's kind of like a row of dominoes tipping over. It starts with simple inefficiencies, wasted time, having to redo work. That knocks over the next domino, low morale and weakened teamwork. From there, connections get damaged, and that final, really big domino falls, missed opportunities for the business. It really shows that communication isn't just some soft skill. It is literally the foundation for success.
So, to fix a problem, you first have to understand how the machine is supposed to run, right? So let's jump into our next section and take a look at the mechanics of how communication actually works.
On the surface, it seems pretty simple, but every single step here is absolutely critical. So, the sender has an idea, they put it into a message, pick a medium, an email, a phone call, whatever, and they send it to the receiver. But here is the part we almost always forget. The process isn't done until step 5, feedback. That's when the receiver actually confirms they understood and the loop is closed. If any one of these steps breaks down, the whole thing fails.
And this, right here, is probably the biggest mistake we all make. We treat communication like a one-way street. We fire off the message and just assume our job is done. But without that crucial feedback loop, you're not really communicating, you're just broadcasting. Real communication is always a two-way process.
Okay, so if that's the ideal process, what's always getting in the way? Let's dig into the 5 hidden barriers that are constantly messing up that flow.
We're going to break down each of these: language, cultural, psychological, gender, and physical barriers. Because honestly, just being able to name them and recognize them is the very first step to taking them down.
First on the list, language barriers. And this isn't just about speaking different languages. Think about all the jargon we use at work. If someone from marketing starts talking about optimizing the funnel to an engineer, that message could get totally lost. That's a language barrier right there, and it just leads to confusion. Next up are cultural barriers, and this stuff is so fascinating. In some cultures, being direct and open is valued above all else. In others, being more subtle and indirect is preferred to keep everyone feeling comfortable. Now, neither one is right or wrong, but when these two styles collide without any awareness, the direct person can come off as rude, and the indirect person might seem like they're being evasive. Then we've got psychological barriers, basically all our own internal stuff. If you're super stressed about a project deadline, a simple email that just says, "Any updates," can feel like a personal attack. That stress is a psychological barrier, and it totally changes how you receive the message. And in a similar way, we run into gender barriers. Now, society often socializes us into different communication styles. For instance, a more direct and assertive style might be more common for men, and a more collaborative and empathetic style for women. When these different approaches meet without understanding, it can cause friction. The whole key here is just to recognize these different styles and value what each one brings to the table. And finally, we have physical barriers. These are the things you can actually see and hear. Think about a super noisy office, a choppy video call, or even just the simple fact that you're working remotely from your team. All these physical obstacles can make it genuinely hard to get your message across clearly. Okay, enough about the problems. Let's get to the good part, the solutions. This next section is all about your skill-building toolkit. We're talking about actionable skills you can start using today to tear down every single one of those barriers we just talked about. So, the first and maybe the most important tool in the kit is active listening. And this is so much more than just staying quiet while someone else is talking. It's like a full-body sport. You're paying attention to their words, sure, but also their tone, their body language. Your goal isn't to think about what you're going to say next. Your goal is to completely understand their point.
Right alongside active listening is empathy.
This is your communication superpower. It's that ability to, just for a moment, step into someone else's shoes and try to see the world from their point of view. When you can do that, you can navigate all those cultural differences, cool down tense situations, and build a real connection.
So let's recap the whole toolkit. We've got active listening and empathy as our foundation, but there are two other essential tools. First, just being aware of nonverbal cues, realizing that how you cross your arms or make eye contact is sending a powerful message. And second, having the confidence to ask for clarification. A simple question like, okay, so what I think I'm hearing you say is that right? Can prevent so many misunderstandings before they even start.
All right, let's bring it all home. Because having the skills is one thing, but actually using them to build a workplace culture of clear communication, well, that's the real goal.
This quote really just says it all, doesn't it? Effective communication is the cornerstone of success. It's not just some extra thing and nice to have. No, it is the absolute foundation. If you can get that piece right, everything else has a much better chance of falling into place.
So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Communication isn't some kind of magic. It's a process we can understand and a set of skills we can all learn. By spotting the barriers and actually practicing skills like active listening and empathy, you can completely transform your interactions at work and build a much stronger, more connected team. So I'll leave you with a question to think about. We've just unpacked this whole toolkit: active listening, empathy, reading nonverbal cues, asking questions. Knowing about them is great, but doing them is what really makes a difference. So, which one of these skills are you going to intentionally practice this week?